MAI would like to greet all of you a Happy New Year. We hope you are off to a good start of 2021 and that you are all keeping well. I think it is safe to say that online teaching and learning will continue this year, even with vaccine coming. So we are glad to offer this webinar, Teach Better Online today. I'm looking forward to learning myself as MAI has been doing a lot of webinars this past few years. My name is Ramon Rocha, welcoming you from the MAI office in Illinois. Thank you for joining us. Please use the chat for your comments and the Q&A for your questions. The chat for your comments and the Q&A for your questions. Feel free to use them anytime. We will try to answer all of your questions towards the end of the webinar. Our presenter today is a longtime partner of MAI. Larry Brook was an MAI board member for several years, and he faithfully served the board for those years. He is an international writing and leadership resource trainer. He's been to all continents except Antarctica. Larry has been teaching online even before Zoom became part of our lives. Let us now welcome Larry Brook. Larry, please take it away.
Thank you, Ramon, and welcome to all of you, whether it's morning or noon or I guess after midnight. And to the penguins in Antarctica, we say hello. I'm Larry, as Ramon said. Thank you, Ramon. And what I would like to say is that a lot of times you have webinars with experts, but I would call myself a fellow struggler with this new technology. Even though I've been, like for 6 years, I was a full-time instructional designer creating programs and courseware for online universities and so on. But every day, if you notice on YouTube, when you go to see how things work, there's so many different ones, and some of them are even 8 years old, which is pretty much out of date. But I just wanted to share the particular perspective of somebody who has spent a lot of time learning and perfecting what might be the best way to learn in a live classroom, because I taught in high school in California and college in New York, and then became involved in online universities. Just the way that we take our educational and teaching approaches and how to best use them on whichever platform you're using. Moodle is a very common platform. It's a little bit much more robust than something like Zoom. And I did send you handouts, and that's kind of an extension of this webinar because we can't cover everything in a few minutes. But let's get started, and I'd like to welcome you to the PowerPoint that I have worked up here. See how we get this going. I got it, I lost it now. See, I told you I was a fellow struggler. Let's get back to the beginning here. Maybe I need Ramon here. What do we do here, Ramon? We're stuck on something.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track.
Now we're back.
In the beginning.
Yeah, it's.
So just click on the first slide then.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing a minute. This is a good, we planned this, so you know that it's not easy to do this. uh, You've got, let's try this other one. Nope, that doesn't work.
Can you escape and then
Yeah, let's get out of here again.
and start? Just click on the first slide. Don't click
Yeah,
on from the beginning. Can you try that? No, no, not that one. The first, the
yep,
slide number one.
it's
Click
always
on
going
slide number
back to
one.
the, yeah,
Go back. Click on the slide number one. Double click.
yep, it's clicking. And then it goes to the wrong one. So
Well, maybe you just present using, even if you can see the,
yeah,
even if you
there's
can see
another
the
one
slides to the
can,
left, you can just go ahead. We can see it anyway. Just
yeah, just a minute, it's coming. Okay, here we go.
yeah, just do it that way.
No, it's not working. Okay, I'm gonna do what you're saying. Because you can see we'll do
Okay,
it
go
this
ahead.
way. Teaching better online. And the goal of the webinar, ideas and resources to help you teach better online. Are you still with us? Our objectives, share basic principles to teach better online. In other words, make your PowerPoint work. Demonstrate practical techniques and tools to teach better online. Okay, the first objective, share basic principles to teach better online. All right, let's take a look at these two pictures. In your mind, or I could ask you, when you use Zoom, because I know a lot of you use Zoom or maybe some other platform, are you approaching your teaching like photograph A or like photograph B? B is what we call talking head, and it is the lowest form of teaching, you might say. Now, if you look at me, you'll see I'm a talking head this morning. Now, the difference here is that this is a webinar. It's not a classroom. Webinars are full of talking heads and you can learn a lot that way. But if you are teaching, say, 10 or 20, 30 students or learners, we focus on interactive teaching. And it's easy to be interactive in a classroom. You just move the chairs around. And the problem is, how do you take that interactive form into the online environment? That's what we're talking about today in other forms. When I first got involved in this, I was very fascinated to learn that there's a certain percentage of retention that takes place depending on how you teach. Now you can see most of us use lecture when we try to do online learning. But you see here, it's a very passive form of learning. It's just listening, and it's only 5% retention. As you go up down the list to more active, you go to reading, audiovisual. Notice it goes up to 30% for demonstration. Okay, how about like in the previous photo, you have people discussing, why do we do that? Because you're getting into more active learning and retention goes up to 50%. And I would say that in my work, I basically try to aim most of the time that the student is in the class on practice and doing, the 75% retention. But then within that, you have opportunities for students to give presentation, and that's when they're teaching others. So you can see in the online environment, everything we do is in a sense aimed to go downward to increase the retention. And by the way, we have, Ramon will send you the PowerPoints when we're done, so you don't have to try to copy all this. Just a second. Go to the next one. There's our learner. Learning online is better if you engage learners through learner-centered approaches, teacher feedback. Now, maybe that seems obvious, but I used to coach online teachers, and we found that the teachers would get the students going, and then they would go shopping, they'd disappear. And this was not good, and I'd have to explain to them is that the students, they want to be involved in this circle of learning, but the teacher has to be present. We call it internet presence. What is chunking knowledge? Chunk knowledge is, for example, instead of having 5 pages of a lecture that you give them all at once, as people involved in training and teaching, you take that knowledge and you put it up into, might say, bite-sized pieces. Maybe the analogy is, what if you ate your whole meal in one bite? You would just choke. So instead of choke, you can chunk. Then again, discovery instead of rote recall. We spend a lot of time emphasizing discovery, and then down to interaction and dialogue. You know, we can't stress that enough. And we will talk about techniques to do that. Case studies, this is where you get the students involved in real situations. We like to put the classroom, whatever the subject is, in terms of a little story where there's decisions that have to be made. And again, focusing on the case study approach, you have where you develop critical thinking, team building, diversity awareness. This is one of the things we've been talking a lot about during these days of, in our country, we've had a lot of political struggle, and some of this is because many people grow up and go to school, but they're not presented with a diversity of opinion or things like that. Shared responsibility. I was just talking to a neighbor who teaches at the University of Illinois, and he said in their Zoom class, actually he was talking about his son. When he first started the class, all the teaching was at that level of interaction and actually helping to teach. He felt he had a shared responsibility, but something happened. Well, what happened was the teacher got so many students, she had to go up the scale till it was pretty much just lecture. And my friend saw his student, his son, move from just being very involved to just trying to get away from the computer and so on. So that first verb at the top, engage learners, is very important. That's engagement. And let's give you an example of this. I'm going to present 2 teaching approaches for online learning. I was in a classroom, this is classroom, but it applies to online too, where for his video, no, not his video, his media like PowerPoint, he copied a page of his textbook. And it was just the students weren't engaged because they didn't share anything there. It was just all his thing. So I'm going to teach about how to write a story. Let's examine today, he would read through that, but let's compare that to a second kind of teaching. And that would be more something like this. Hold on. stuck again. Where's it going? There, oh, here. How to write a story, the second kind of teaching approach. A personal story is where you write about your own experience. Let's try it. See what happens? It's immediately getting the students involved. And this is for you, those of you who have to prepare material to teach online. This would be a good model to follow. Use the following assignment for practice. Work in your breakout room, give each other feedback, then we'll come back to the main room to share. And Ramon and I were talking, and we said that many of you use these breakout rooms, but this is the way to engage the students so that they come and write, and then they give feedback, and then they come back. In this particular story, we give a true case from the time of Pol Pot in Cambodia. Those of you from Cambodia would really relate to this. Anyway, he was forced to be digging a canal, and he found a sweet potato, but he wasn't supposed to have it, and he got in real trouble. So they write the story and go on from there. It's very interactive. Oops, went too far. Second objective, demonstrate practical techniques and tools to teach online. Again, whatever your approach is. Ways to support better online learning. We have file and video sharing. Again, this is where the students is involved with the teacher. You don't have the talking head, you have all the students together. There's ways to poll, question and answer tools, chats. If we have time, I'll show you about a Quizlet tool. You can record in your computer or in the cloud, so you can access it anyway, everywhere. And then on the right, in the photo on the right, you show breakout rooms, or it's like a typical Zoom example. And I would say if you have never used breakout rooms, send us, we'll put a comment on in our webinar here. Where do they put comments, Ramon? In the
chat.
In the chat. Okay, good. Or you have a question, put it in Q&A. We'll get to it. I'll skip over that. Now, I'd like to just take a second and see if we can see an example of what happens on Quizlet. Hold on, here we go. Quizlet.
You have a big test coming up soon and you're stressed. If you're like most people, you don't really know how to study. You spend your time looking at old notes, listening to lectures, staring at a boring textbook, or making paper flashcards that took you hours to write. You need a better way to learn. Let's use your upcoming French test as an example, and you're really struggling to internalize all the words. Then you find Quizlet. You go on to Quizlet.com and create a flashcard set of your French vocabulary. You enter the terms on the left and their corresponding definitions on the right. Once you're satisfied with the list of words, you create your set. Just like with paper flashcards, you can flip through your terms and definitions, familiarizing yourself with the vocabulary. You may choose to have both the term and its definition on one side, or separate them to front and back. Now you're really ready to learn. In Learn mode, given each definition, you are asked to type in the term, or vice versa. Quizlet keeps track of what you know and what you don't know. If you make a mistake, Quizlet will ask you again at the end of each round. When you feel like you're ready to test yourself, Quizlet will generate a unique test for you using a variety of different question types. Once you've completed your test, you'll know immediately what you missed. Quizlet has a fun side too. In the scatter game, you race against time to match terms and their corresponding definitions. In Space Race, you must shoot down the definitions before they fly across the screen by quickly typing in the right words. After a few days of using Quizlet, you are now a pro. But with success comes responsibility. You can share your set with some of your friends, maybe even your teacher. Now your friends can all study the same material and even compete against each other for the high score. You found a better way to study and aced your French test. Quizlet can help with other subjects too, like biology. Instead of creating your own biology flashcards, you can search Quizlet and find exactly what you need. Quizlet is the fast, fun, and effective way to study. With the library of 2 million flashcard sets covering hundreds of subjects, you can start learning almost anything. Start now by finding a set to study or by creating your own.
Now, one thing that's interesting, as in a lot of these, well, Zoom itself, which we're using, they usually have a free service that you can use forever free, but then when you want to get more advanced, then you start paying. Quizlet is, if you want the advanced, is only about $3 a month. So, you know, that's handy. Let's go back to our wonderful PowerPoint. I don't know if that will work or not. Well, that's not right. I don't know where that came from. Stop share. Are we having fun yet?
I think you were continuing with the YouTube. That's US.
Yeah, that's the problem. Here, let's go back to the, there. See, we know how to do this. So we've been talking about a different number of ways to teach better online. And probably some of you have used this other technique, which is the whiteboard. And again, you share, and it's always there for you as a default. And you see the different, I think you can see the different choices you have in terms of, I don't use drawing because I'm not really good at it. Trying to write hello. So what I do instead, now let's say I want to erase that. I can either push clear all, it should say all bad writing. Please wait a moment. We're clearing our, I've never seen that before, Ramon, have you? Renew your subscription. That's funny. Let's try and go back, see if they'll let me in. The police are after us.
Without the theory of evolution, there is no secular humanism. While many scientists hold that evolution is a theory, humanists believe evolution is a fact.
Did you put that in there, Ramon?
Evolution is a fact amply demonstrated.
I think you're still on YouTube. You exit
Yeah.
from YouTube.
Okay, now we're back on. Okay, anyway, I just wanted to show you when you put in text, what are some, you can have a nice discussion with the students using the whiteboard. What are some ways we can use to teach better online? PowerPoint out of control. No, that's just a joke. Interaction, things like that. Okay. So let's go on from there and go back to the PowerPoint again. This is really, that's the list for you, and listing some other tools that can be used with your teaching platform. Let's say it's Zoom or Moodle, or in the handouts, I've listed a whole bunch of other ones, some of that are free, some that are costly. But you can integrate all of these platforms that you see in front of you with Zoom. One of the highest recommended one is the Google Suite, Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Classroom. I would start with Google Docs because that's where, let's say, more advanced students, well, like the one that we had earlier about the potato. Let's go to your breakout rooms, get on Google Docs, and in Google Docs, you have a simple example of Word format, and you can write your documents in there. And then you share them. That's the beauty. You could be all over the world and making comments on Google Docs. Google Drive is where you can have a nice place to store your material over the course of the training. And Google Classroom, if you are a full-time teacher on let's say Zoom, this is a great way to organize your class because it has to do with attendance and so on. Now, the other one is Seesaw, which is one that I can share that my daughter teaches. She actually has a fairly large closet at home. Used to have her clothes in there, but she had to clear them out because that had to be her classroom. And she uses Seesaw with elementary students. Students can write, they can make little videos, they can take pictures with their cameras and put them on there. Padlet is another one that has various different forms of teaching. Same with Edpuzzle, you can make all kinds of different creative puzzles. Nearpod is one of the newest ones, and I would think that'd be worth looking at. And then, of course, Quizlet, which we just saw along with some extraneous videos on evolution. Let's move on here. What's going on here? There. Now we come to our questions, suggestions, missing clues. And you'll see the question here at the end. Why don't we launch an MAI online learning group? If interested, contact Ramon. And I show you the email there, and he will set you up. We can talk about that further, and we'll get your emails and have some good interaction on that. So Ramon, do you have access to some of the questions, if any?
We do have, thank you, Larry. Yeah, Days for Fontura is wrote in the comment on the chat that one suggestion before sharing videos, there are two little boxes on the bottom left to share video and audio. Yeah, this way the participants can listen better. So she's just making a suggestion to do it better.
I meant to ask if, well, like we had trouble with the video, and I apologize for that. You wouldn't know that we practice for hours, but that's what happens. And, you know, you have to, that's the exciting adventure of these kind of platforms, is just to keep working with it and keep, it's like one day you'll meet one problem and then the next day something else pops up. So you have to go on faith, I guess.
Yeah, so that highlights the importance of practice. So if you're teaching online, you better make sure that all of your links to videos, to illustrations, photos are working well.
And to make one thing that, well, we've known this a long time, but not just practice to yourself, but for instance, we had a lot of trouble just even seeing the video, and we had to work out the, well, for a while I worked with Ramon on this, and he was very helpful because he could see exactly what was happening on his screen. And then I was very happy. He's enjoying the video, but he says, Larry, I can't see anything. So that's a typical problem. And then when I went on to the next day, and my wife has a Mac computer. So I said, well, let's see how it works on Mac computers. So I did the webinar with her. And at one point she says, what am I looking at? So we had to fix that and so on. And
Yes, thank you.
one little thing we had was another question.
Yes, if you have any question, please write them, type them on the Q&A. Yeah, so anything that is not clear, or what are the practical tips, Larry, that you could share? So that's one, practice is one.
Can we try the, what do you call this? I saw it's called response. And could we say, how many of you have used Zoom for over 2 years? You could click raise your hand. Where do you see that, Ramon? Oh, I see it comes on our.
When you click on the participants, yeah, you will see who.
Oh, I see. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
One person. How about this? How many have used, let's say, have used Zoom for at least 2 days?
All of us, I think.
Okay. Well, that shows me you are all, okay. Now we got to get everybody's hand up. How many have used Zoom for 5 minutes at least?
Anyway,
Oh,
it's
okay. That's one way you get interaction. And then do we have any questions?
Yeah, they can use the polling.
Yeah.
Right? They can use the polling. They can use, what else? As you may have noticed, we are using the live transcript closed caption.
Oh yeah, tell them about that.
Yeah, is that helpful, or is it a distraction? We haven't used it before. So
My
you could
feeling was that it,
as well.
yeah, a lot of us, English is a second language, and at least that's putting it in writing. Another thing I've noticed, Ramon, is that in Zoom anyway, when you start opening the program, there's a selection of languages. And so you click on that. Let's say you're a French speaker or Spanish. Now it doesn't change your English PowerPoint into your language, say Spanish, but what it does is all of the instructions within Zoom are switched to Spanish.
Okay.
So that's very helpful. And I tried it with French because I have a French background, and it was really, really quite, I mean, it was immediate and would be helpful if you're using Zoom in other cultures, I would say.
Okay. Anne is asking, can you tell us more about polling?
Yeah. Let me see if I can. I don't know if we can share well, if you go into Zoom, I wanted to show you this, but I'm not sure how to.
Well, yeah.
If we start another, I think we could do it this way. Let me see. Yeah, anyway, in the Zoom context, you open up the profile and the settings, and in the settings, you scroll down to where it says polling, and click on that, and then you open that up, and it actually it's very much like Quizlet, where let's say which one of these answers, in other words, multiple choice, which one of these answers reflects your experience in the session today. You know, I went to sleep, it was okay, it really applied. And then the, you know, the polling it comes up on the right, and the teacher can see what percentage of them are more visual learners, which more like to listen to things, which ones like to do hands-on stuff. So I think that's again the value of the idea. If we could continue this discussion kind of in an online group for online learning, we can go into these things much more deeply.
Yeah, the polling, you can ask a question or several questions, and you can ask the participants to vote or answer the question, and you can see the results right away. So yeah, you can see the results right away and share the results to everyone.
One thing we were implying, and that is good online learning teaching involves assessment. That is, the student is asking, how am I doing? How am I doing? And what are the obstacles and how to overcome them? So this is the place where immediate answer, how am I doing, is through the polling. It's through the quizzes, like these very fun quizzes like you have in Quizlet. And in our work in online learning, one of the things that really struck me as a teacher was to move away from traditional testing to what we called authentic assessment. And that way, like we would say, the worst test is true and false because it's just so rote learning. But instead, it would be more like the sweet potato story where in your final exam, you say, okay, here's a situation. What would you do in that situation? Now the student has to apply all of their learning, but it's kind of real life. And it's more, you've probably heard the term values clarification, where you go into a situation and you're not sure. You think you know how you'll react in that situation, but if you show how complicated it is, like it's not always easy, then the testing part actually becomes a learning experience. So that's what can come out of, again, of the platform, the tools that you use, and so on.
Well, David Muniere is asking, from your experience, Larry, what is the best teaching platform for online learning and teaching?
Whew, that's a good one.
The most
you can
accessible and popular.
Yeah. When Ramona and I were talking about this session, I came in, I'm almost like born again now as far as platforms like Zoom, because you have a free one that you can do so much with it. But if you want to get more robust, I would start with Moodle, because Moodle is also free, but it has the framework and the environment. I think it's just moodle.com. It's in the handouts. You can find more there. But that will kind of expose you to what is involved in a whole class session. And in terms of introduction, okay, then you learn something, then you apply it. It's all set up that way with very interesting, you might say, tools to do that. The other platforms like Canvas, and probably the one that used most by universities is Blackboard. Blackboard would be the second opportunity or thing that you might try, but that's not free. And it's more for a larger school situation. And Canvas, as I've been working recently with with organizations. The platform called Canvas is probably would come in third. And some of you would also know, maybe know some that work in your situation. Again,
So
there's about 5 or 6 that are listed.
So for you,
Yeah.
Moodle, so Moodle.com.
Yeah, because it's Moodle.com. You know, and thing I've learned is that I have to tell you something funny. My friend of mine went to dermatologist and he had to cut something and give her a shot on his face, and she said, "How did you learn that? You're doing such a beautiful job." He said, "Oh, I learned it on YouTube." So you can learn a lot about all of these on YouTube, and they will give you a clear presentation of it. But I think I would suggest too that I mean, there are authoring tools too, which are they are tools that help you create these online classrooms. Storybook is the most, at least on the corporate level, is the one that they use a lot. And I've listed 5 or 6 again in the handouts.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go on, but go ahead, Ramon.
Yeah, so Carmen Quero from Argentina is saying hi. Yes, this webinar is being recorded, and I will share the link to all of the registered participants within today. So thank you for asking.
I wish you could cut out that part where the PowerPoint didn't work, but maybe it's good, because if something happens, you just have to keep going and don't worry about it.
Yeah. So maybe we can ask them who has taught online for more than a session, more than just one session. You have taught, let's say, 2 or 3 sessions using online. Who of you have taught more than once? You've used
You're taking that's a raise their hand and stuff. Yeah.
Or use the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, several of them have taught online more than once. So what did you use? Did you use Zoom or any other platform?
You can write, there's where they can write on the chat.
Chat, yeah. What did you use for your teaching? Did you use Zoom? Google Meet. Dina used Google Meet.
Google Meet.
Yes. Dina, between Zoom and Google Meet, which one do you prefer? Tobun Lim is used Google and Zoom, Google Classroom. Garvin have used Zoom and Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, these like Microsoft Teams, I've used that for, they're very good for consultations. Like I was developing stuff for an engineering company, and I had a lot of work with the engineers to make the program, and we would meet on Microsoft Teams every day. You know, it's good.
So Dina said she prefers Zoom over Google Meet.
Yeah,
And
probably more robust.
Yeah, and David Muniere is going to teach this coming trimester. And looking at Zoom or Google Meet. Why don't you study Moodle also, David, and see if it's going to be better? I mean, it's a free, it's not paid, right? Moodle has a free
Yeah.
version.
Yeah, it's free. And you can find a lot of, this is a good point about, there's a lot of subject focused content out there. Go to some of the universities like Yale and Stanford, and it's amazing how much of that is free or that you could adopt, and and so on.
Yes. Thank you, Eileen. Zoom, the messenger, eats a lot of data. You can try Google Meet as well. Okay.
I think it's one thing I've learned, like in the office, you have 6 people around you who are also working, but with us, we can have this group that I have found, like when you're learning this stuff, it's you remember you clicked on something that did something, but you can't remember where it was. So if we have a group working together, it's very quickly, well, oh yeah, you go here and so on. So that's just it. It's very difficult to learn by yourself. Well, it's possible because most of them are pretty easy, but
Okay. Maybe we can ask them what has been their most challenging part in your teaching online. We can
good
ask,
question.
yeah, we can ask that question. Please type what has been the most challenging part of your teaching online. Use the
I
chat.
might if you see one yet, I could answer from my experience, actually not just for myself, but I've trained other professionals in this. And believe it or not, the most challenging thing is to ask a good question. And this is not about technology, it's about, how do you teach? And, it because that number one, you have to think about your target learner. Who are they? What are they learning? You have to think about what the goal of the session is. I consulted with a PhD teacher in a business school, and she said, you are the first one who ever told me I needed an objective for this session. Because if you don't have an objective, it doesn't matter what you ask, and it's very difficult to come up with a question. But if you know that question, you know the student, and then you can go beyond, we call them we have in big letters on the wall, don't ever ask yes, no question. Like the worst question is, how many fingers do you have on your right hand? I mean, this goes straight through your brain. You have no need to think about it. But you could say, well, in a biology class, why do you think you have 5 fingers? What can you do with? I mean, that gets them involved in discussing.
Okay,
So
so ask the why questions.
yeah.
Okay, so other than internet connection, which is we cannot control that. Yeah.
Oh, you mean the problem is internet?
Tao Boon Lim is his greatest challenge is getting learners to be actively engaged in their learning.
Yeah.
Because your students can fall asleep and or work on their look at their cell phones instead of
Yeah.
paying attention.
Well, I think we tried to illustrate that this webinar. If you think, well, let me give you an example. I had some online class for Japanese executives, and I was told by another Japanese here in the States, oh, they'll just go to sleep. Don't worry about it. They'll just know that 90% of them will go to sleep. So I said, I challenge, my goal in life is to wherever the students are from, to keep them awake. So if you want to put them to sleep, you just do no, this is good because we're just discussing, but if you're lecturing, they'll go to sleep. So we used to say, and this, by the way, is another issue, is how do you get, let's say you have 10 units of what you have, topics you have to cover, you think you have to cover, but then you just we say, don't lecture more than 5 minutes. I mean, that's kind of hard to think about, but you have to not compromise on that. And there's ways to do that. For example, in a class, I would never show the PowerPoint live in the class. I said, we have PowerPoints here. Here's the link. You look at the PowerPoint yourself when you're at home in your sleeping clothes with some coffee. So that's one thing. So they come to the class having finished the PowerPoint instead of spending 20 minutes putting them to sleep. That's just one example. Or if you have a little essay, read that at home. Don't read it on the, in other words, don't print it on the screen. But you get the Japanese, you know what I did is I said, okay, go to Google Docs, open up a document, and just write one sentence about what the hero is in your culture. And it was amazing. They wanted to be these were Japanese businessmen. They wanted to be first to share. So, and none of them went to sleep. So that's the interactive side of things.
Engaging your students.
Engaging, yeah.
And not just lecture. And
yeah, another principle would be a tip, I guess. You ask yourself, what are the students doing at this point? And if they're just listening, they're going to sleep. So the other thing, how are they engaging in their skills to learn something new? And that's the online situation. It doesn't mean you don't read, or because we have online classes a lot with textbooks. And but what the thing there, our principle was never read the textbook in class, because they can read it outside. But think of activities. Develop a case study based on we did criminal justice courses, and let's show this, what happens, let's show a picture of a crime scene. Now you discuss it, what happened. So that's how you engage.
Case studies, discussion, get them engaged. Anne is asking, well, her experience is to be able to do like the breakout rooms while she focuses on her teaching. And you can assign a co-host to do the breakout for you. So you don't have to do it yourself. So assign a co-host to do the breakout, the big class into smaller groups. You don't have to do it yourself. A co-host can do that.
Yeah, and then if the co-host has any trouble, they can say help, and then you can jump into their small group and see what the question is. But I meant to mention that. Thank you. The co-hosts, you can assign them, and maybe like ahead of time, who your students are. Some can be very good co-hosts.
Maythine is asking, how can she know that the students in the breakout rooms are doing what they're supposed to do?
Oh,
some are closing their videos and not participate in the breakout. Any suggestions, Larry, on how to monitor?
Oh yes, the main host, you yourself, you can visit each room.
You can visit each room.
Yeah, you can. There's a little. It's in the right of the screen. It says join.
Okay.
And I think
you as the teacher, you can go around.
Yeah.
And visit each breakout room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
yeah, I talked to one teacher, and she said that's what she does, is she can visit each sometimes gives them different assignments, so that while one group is finishing their work, she can visit another group and see how she's doing or how they're doing. And again, it's got
Yes.
active things. Don't
And
remember.
let them know that you're going to visit them so that you
Yeah,
don't
I'm not.
see them.
I'm trying to remember if you can visit them without them knowing, without their knowing, but I think they do know. And also, you put this is important in the breakout sessions. They have a place to give a time limit.
Okay. Time
It should
limit.
not be open-ended. You should have 30 minutes or sometimes even 5 minutes. Like if if this were a 3-hour session instead of a short session, even with how many do we have? We have maybe 22. Yeah, we could have 5 groups and then those groups could be discussing, and then I would say, okay, 6 minutes, we'll come back together and you can report.
Yeah. By the way, there is no breakout rooms in webinars. There is only breakout rooms in Zoom meetings. So if you want breakout, create a Zoom meeting. Webinars don't have breakout rooms.
Yeah, that's good. We discovered that. And also, we can check on this, Ramon. You have polling,
Yeah.
but because they're different, it's important to check what is free and what I believe polling only comes with a Zoom that you pay for it. It's kind of the business Zoom. So if you don't have it, just you try something else, but you can use what you have.
Yeah. So Churn said, get a producer, somebody who mans the controls of the Zoom, so that you can focus on your teaching. That's very important, because when I was new with Zoom, I was doing everything. So
Mm,
it takes,
yeah,
some focus on the controls, and at the same time, your teaching is hard. So if you can get somebody to man the controls, that will be good.
yeah. I would be interested at some point to find out. Uh, Teaching is not like breathing, like everybody can do it just because you're live. I mean, it really takes, it's a discipline. Like, for example, objectives. Everybody hates objectives, but it's like the skeleton of your body, and how to write them um, this is just a little tip on learning. We say that, for example, that the students would know about God. I mean, that's a terrible objective because it might be a good sermon. I'm not a preacher, but an objective doesn't focus on knowledge, it focuses on skill. And it asks the question, how can the student show that they know something or that they can do something? So instead, the objective would be that the students would write a prayer expressing their feelings toward God. You see the difference? One is just no, it's so general, but then that would write a prayer. That's a very practical thing. And that gives what I was saying earlier, that gives the lesson person, the one that's writing the lesson, it gives them, now I know what the questions are going to be. So it really is key to, you don't think of the question and then where's this lesson going? You want to tell the direction first and go on to the application. And so everything relates to that particular objective. That's sort of about your question, Ramon, about what are some challenges that you have had in your teaching,
Yeah.
and so on.
I tried also. I don't know if it adds value. You stand instead of sit.
Oh, you stand for your
You
for
just
your
you just like
Zoom classroom.
you just like you're behind a podium in a
Mm,
classroom. So it just mimics the situation. If it gives you added space to move around, that means you need to set up your camera at quite a distance so you can, there is some space between you and your computer. It's just something that you
Yeah,
can.
well, actually, it's interesting you mentioned that because he's my neighbor. He's a great neighbor, but he does webinars all the time and plus classrooms. And he actually, he was on the screen and he showed me, look, I have this little camera because I think probably all of us are using
The web.
we're right on the screen and I'm looking at you through my camera, but he showed me you can put, like I have a second screen and I didn't use it because when I saw myself, I was looking like this. I said, well, how can I look at my screen and I'm missing the student. So he says, oh, you just put a camera over your second screen and that enables you to have actually different viewpoints and so on.
You mentioned that using a second screen, a second monitor.
Yeah.
Is that helpful, Larry, for a teacher to have two monitors?
Yeah. Well, from what I've studied, let's say it's your first classroom, your first webinar, then just use one screen. But what happens is eventually you just have, it's almost, well, you saw it this morning. If I had my two screens, it would have been easier to get out of one problem and go into the other. But with the second screen, you have a much more, let's call it control over what you're doing. And plus in the sharing time, you can first share one screen and then quickly, well, I'll tell you what happened. I was sharing my monitor, and then I found out that I could just, you know how you can slide your whatever document you have over into the second screen as a backup. And that's the other advantage is transition is a key thing in the webinar. And I apologize again for the times when it wasn't
So
very
you
clear.
can have
So,
two monitors, two screens, but practice
yeah,
before using it. So
again, practice
transition,
because
an advantage,
because
transitioning from one. Uh,
right. For instance, when you do your share screen time, it'll show you both screens.
mhm.
It's called screen number 1 and number 2.
Okay.
And I've found that you have to be very careful which screen you're showing in order to show the PowerPoint. So again, you have to practice with it. But
Carmen is asking, do you have any suggestion for giving homework or assignments to students and how to check them?
oh boy, there's so much to cover in teaching online, but that's definitely an important issue. And again, it goes back to, does the homework fit the objective of the lesson? And sure, and it's important that I'm trying to think of different ways that.
Can you use Google Docs?
Yeah, okay. A lot of these platforms like Moodle and Blackboard and so on, what's beautiful, maybe why you have to pay for it, is right within the platform, they have a place where you say submit assignments. And then, because I used to teach online quite a bit. And so then the teacher has a whole system to, okay, who hasn't turned their assignment in, here's their assignment. And then the teacher reads them and can give comments. But Google Docs, you can do the same. The teacher can look at the essay or the picture, Excel spreadsheet and make comments. So that's how you do it. And, usually a big, what we call learning management system has an internal email system. But if you don't have that, I don't think you have that with Zoom. You just do it on the outside and you can go back and forth with email.
So you
and
can
then
an assignment, the student can prepare the answer in a Google
yes,
Doc, and then share that Google Doc to the teacher.
Right, exactly.
Like email that Google Doc to the teacher, and the teacher
Mhm.
can check. So that is
Well,
free.
I think, Ramon, what happens is you can email the teacher, okay, I'm ready. And then the teacher logs on to Google Docs and finds the
Find the
students. And
student's document.
that works right inside the Google Docs.
Yeah.
Uh,
Carmen, try that. Go to Google Docs
mhm.
and yeah.
Now for younger students, the let's take one, the seesaw. That is a brilliant thing where I heard about recently. Again, elementary school, the students were learning about short and long. What's the difference? So the 5-year-old, these kids are amazing. Uh, his 10-year-old neighbor, yeah, I was just at his door and he said, oh yeah, well, if I had that, I would co-sign a host. This is a 10-year-old. But the 5-year-old in this one I was talking about, he had his dad's camera and he had somebody take a video of him driving a car a short distance. And then he said, then he drove it a long distance. And then he made an audio where he was describing what he was doing, all in Seesaw, and he clicked send, and the teacher could see it right on the platform. So
Seesaw, is it free or is it paid?
again, they have that free. You can pay more, but it's free at the beginning. And the ones I just
as well,
covered,
Carmen, seesaw.com.
seesaw.com. It's in the PowerPoint when they get that.
Okay. So seesaw.com. Yeah.
And then the other, near, I think it's Nearpad or Nearpod. That's another new one that's worth looking at.
Okay. Yeah, Carmen works with young learners, so that's
Young learners. So she should look into those.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you.
Any other question from the floor from our participants? Now's the time. Otherwise, our time is up.
Yes, and I just wanted to add, God bless everyone and keep you safe and well. It's not an easy time. So
yeah.
soon.
Before we say goodbye, any parting words, Larry? Any encouraging words to all the teachers out there teaching online?
Yes, I worked in the Middle East for quite a bit, and it was such a rich and wonderful experience to see how effective teaching just revitalizes even the church, the whole church, well, starting with individuals. So what I would just encourage you to work as much as you can in this direction of online teaching, because that's where things are going now. Well, we have to, we can't get together. But in the future, it's going to be more important because people are going to get much better at it. And I saw myself, well, it doesn't, in the Bible, it doesn't mention you shall be gifts of prophecy and teaching. Well, there you go. You got teaching. So it's a calling that, we're all on this journey together. So I'll be praying for you.
Okay. Thank you. Timothy Makara is thanking you, thanking us from Cambodia. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for being with us, for joining us, and I will send the link to the recording. You have the handouts with you, and if you want to join the MAI online learning group, email me and we will create a WhatsApp group. And Larry volunteered to answer all of your questions.
Together, we'll work together.
If you want to join the MAI online a learning group, email me and we will create a WhatsApp group. That means you need to tell me your phone numbers. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being with us. And we hope to see you again in our next webinar.
Bye-bye.
God bless everyone and goodbye for now.